Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Venusian Womb, a womb journey where dreams are seeded, identities are alchemized, and the journey inward begins.
This season, we are honoring a dream in gestation, a womb journey exploring the sacred phase between dreaming and birthing. It's about the phase where something meaningful is taking shape within you, even if you can't see it yet.
I'm Milena.
And I'm Megan.
Let's begin by taking a slow, deep breath together. Feel yourself arrive, land in your body.
This is a space to pause, to reflect, to connect, and to grow at your own pace.
We invite you to join us as we sit in conversation, share stories, and explore what it really means to be in the process of becoming. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Venusian Womb podcast. We are so grateful to have you join us for this conversation. This is going to be an end of the year reflection, really just integrating all of the lessons that 2025 has been filled with. And for all of us, I'm sure this has been a lesson or a year of just big shedding, big closures, lots of radical honesty, and also holding and meeting all these parts of yourself in these lessons and in this growth with as much love and compassion as we can, because that is where we can actually really derive all of the goods and the juice and the wisdom. So we are going to go into these lessons and hopefully be able to reflect some wisdom for you on your journey. I'm sure there will be some parallels and some mirroring of similar lessons, and also creating a space for this to be a bit more of an open discussion in our DMs, in our comments, really giving this space to be able to reflect on the year.
Yeah. So before we dive into the lessons, I feel very deeply called to share with y'all how me and Milena started this year. We have a new ritual where we start the year with a medicine ceremony. And this medicine ceremony in particular, now looking back on it today, December 15th, as we record this, wow, was it telling for our year.
Yep.
Essentially, the main point of this entire ceremony that we did together, it brought us to the pits of the pits of the pits of the bottom of our subconscious. And we both felt like we were just lying at the bottom, watching all our stories, everything that was messy, everything that was like in the way of us, that how we were getting in our own way within this. And we would just slowly like pull the thread and dissect one story at a time. And we did this for probably 3-4 hours, lying on the ground with
Yes, we did.
pillows and blankets and crying and just allowing all these parts of us to bubble up to the surface, to come into our conscious awareness. And as we're going to explain the lessons, a lot of what bubbled up in that ceremony is exactly what we had to resolve this year. Which is funny because I think in that moment we thought, oh, we're resolving everything. No,
Right
no,
now?
no. That was just it coming to the surface and becoming aware of it. And then we actually got to resolve and integrate it throughout the year. But just to say, it's so interesting how our beginning of the year literally gave us a little peek into what our year was going to be. And how silly Milena and Megan thought that that was just it.
Yeah,
In
we're
that
like,
moment.
oh, this is so good. We've already completed all of these like cycles and all these lessons. Like, that's so good. We've integrated it all in this one ceremony
No.
completely. No. Boy, were we humbled.
And wrong.
Yeah. And it's great too, because now we have so much lived experience that have tested so many of these, I want to say, just like pieces of awareness, like just awareness of ourselves and certain patterns that, we were kind of just cycling in, and there was stagnancy towards, and we were able to really work those through this year. And now we can speak on it from a much more embodied and integrated place than we did when we started. But exactly, beautiful parallel mirroring. But to go into our first lesson, lesson number 1 has been shedding the good girl.
It's such a hard one This has been a massive
Tea.
identity death because without her, I don't know who the fuck I am half the time.
I'm the goodiest girl. I'm the goody two shoes.
I got
My whole
straight
life.
A's, teacher's pet. I don't have a speeding ticket. I've never gotten a ticket. And let me tell you, the good girl is not helpful. She's just a survival strategy. And that has become so crystal clear this year, especially this has become most crystal clear for me as in being an entrepreneur, having a business, building something along those lines. You can't please everyone, even when you really, really, really want to. Oh.
Nope. And it's been so interesting, I think, within this archetype of the good girl that I've also so deeply identified with and formed so much of my identity around. And recognizing that a lot of this has been done to belong,
Mhm,
to not step on other people's toes, to meet other people's expectations of me, and noticing how the good girl has led to self sacrifice, self abandonment, not speaking to my needs, and instead of considering my own needs and my own truth, is putting other people's needs and their expectations of me first. And so it's been such a beautiful process and challenging process because that's the thing is when you start taking your power back and you start really living in honoring of your capacity and your needs and your truth, like what you feel is right for you, there are people that are not going to like that, especially when you have put them first in the past.
mhm,
And now they're not, now they don't have that space.
mhm,
So it's been really interesting to also in this process of letting go of the good girl is also owning what who is I don't know, like authentic, like what's this authentic version of you that's coming through.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. I feel she's also been a big illuminating factor in, like, this whole story. This goes into another lesson too, so maybe I'll just save it for after, but the villains and the heroes of,
Mm,
like, as a good girl, I'm a hero. I'm likable. I nobody doesn't like me, and I could never be the villain in my story. So then when life happens and you end up making a mistake or doing something that's not in alignment with the good girl, you do feel like the villain. And then that good girl illusion shatters because then it's like, "Wait, I was never the good girl or that good energy. Like what happened to that part of me that I've been doing so good at holding up this mask and portraying, and this has kept me so safe." Again, another illusion of safety, and how it's so easy to then kind of get stuck in this space where you see other people as villains or you see other people as non-good because if you're having this perception of the good girl, and then it makes everything black and white and there's no nuance to your human experience.
mhm.
But yeah, no, she's definitely shown up in many ways this year where I've been called to not be the good girl,
Take her
to
off the
not people
pedestal.
please, to not do something for somebody else because it's gonna make them happy or anything, just doing it because that's what's actually right for me. And it's not easy, and I wouldn't even say she's completely shed. Like, there's
No.
still many ways that she is still and I don't think I will ever completely shed her. I think it's been more of a welcoming and accepting that she's a part of me, and how can we coexist as opposed to trying to and as opposed to her running the show or pretending she doesn't exist at all, because she's a part of my survival strategies. I'm not gonna be able to just eradicate that, and I don't really want to because I do love her, and I do love that part of me. Like, it's a beautiful I think the good girl archetype is not just a bad thing that we've adopted as a survival strategy, it's actually, like, a really great strategy in so many ways. It's just we don't want her running the show and overriding truth and what it is that we actually need to show up in our most aligned, I don't want I guess, authentic,
And also
truthful self.
sustainably.
Yes, that's the word I was going
We're
for.
going for,
Mhm.
like, the long run, right? And I think that within this archetype, like you said, there are gifts in it, and I think it's just letting go of this moral high ground, letting go of this self-righteousness, letting go of the self-abandonment and the ways that the good girl tries to keep you safe in a way that is not honoring yourself. So, yeah, really becoming aware of this And yeah, I this is definitely an invitation for many women to be able to check in with yourself is where is your good girl archetype? Like how is it playing out in your life? And recognizing that there's so many different parts of ourselves and they all get to have a seat at the table, but there's no one
Mhm,
that's like on the table running the show. They could all have a seat, and we're not going to eradicate these parts completely because
mhm,
they do serve us and they are also there to protect us in many ways. It's just a matter of, yeah, just bringing more awareness to it. And then from there, being able to have more autonomy over which parts are
mhm,
running the show. And I guess that brings us into our second lesson. Lesson number 2, from rescuing to embodied leadership.
mhm.
What does this
Oh,
mean?
this I'm gonna bring in this is what I wanted to say before. This has been a big year for me, and this I will say I've is dead. I've killed the fantasy, the fairy tale. The romantic lens of life, which I'm not saying I'm not a romantic anymore or I don't romance life, but the lens through which I operated in someone's going to rescue me or I'm just waiting. There was still layers of waiting to be felt chosen, feel whole and complete through someone else, through anything else, not even just someone, through the work I do, through the external validation that I was still seeking to be rescued by as opposed to just being in my embodied integrity and leadership and internal validation, resourcing for myself from inside, not externally. And also, that's where like the villains and heroes also come in, but also the fairy tale of relationships has been such a clear breaking. I got into the most fairy tale-like relationship in February at the beginning of the year. It was literally a fairy tale. I lived a fairy tale, and I love
Was
that fairy tale, and I will die on a hill 'cause I love it, I love it, I love it, and I will repeat that story over and over again and feel the same cocktail of beautiful feelings that came from it, but I'm also so grounded in the reality of what my relationship really is. And that fairy tale doesn't supersede all the choices and how I see things now or how I see other people's relationships or how I am in relationship with anyone in my life. And I think it's so important that this
Mhm.
illusion that we're fed from Disney, from watching so many I mean, all the Christmas movies that are playing right now, there's a lot of fantasy, and fantasy is not reality. And then when the more we are in these fantasies, the more we collapse, the more we shut down, the more we self-abandon, the more we are not even centered in self or aligned with any of our values or anything that it is we really want because we're so outsourced on what's happening in the delusion, in the illusion, in the non-reality. And I see how harmful that was to me, that is to so many people around me, and that we get lost in, well, that person hurt me, and how could they do that? And
And the story.
we forget what's really happening in these dynamics, in these relational dynamics between people. So that honestly has been my biggest lesson, and I think it's a continuous of the lessons I've been learning over the past few years, but I feel like I've finally completed that loop, that cycle of understanding what the fantasy really is and how it does not serve us.
You spoke to that so beautifully and so grateful for just the perspective that you shared with it because we create the stories. The ego loves stories. And this is
Mm,
why our ancestors, they passed along wisdom through generations and generations through oral storytelling. And
mhm,
so it's something that in our own just like our own blueprint as humans, we love stories. We learn so much from stories. They stick to our psyche and in our mind. And so
mhm,
it's very important to become aware of the stories that we're telling ourselves, the stories that we're creating around others. What are the unspoken expectations that we might be creating around other people in our life? Because when we have that, this we're projecting these things that we expect from others that they may not even be aware, one, that we are expecting of them, that may lead to our own disappointment when those things are not being met. And two, sometimes their responsibility. Like, it's not another person's responsibility to meet all of these expectations and to be this person for you that can hold you in your own inner world and in what's going on in your life. And this has been part of this lesson is recognizing, one, where are the stories, and two, recognizing within internal resourcing when I do have to externally resource, because we're human, and this is also why we have
Mhm.
community. This is why we've created the collective, is
Mhm.
to be an external resource for you for when life is hard and you're really having a hard time internally to hold space for yourself, is to be able to have others to do that, and recognizing that it can't just be one person. It's you can't derive all of your needs from a single person. And that's something that I think for myself has been part of the fantasy of romantic love, is this person is going to be my absolutely everything, and I'll be able to derive all of my needs and support from this one person. And that's not realistic. It's not realistic. It's not fair to them. And also it's not allowing yourself to really step into your own embodied leadership and to be able to learn how to hold yourself. And I feel like this year has been a beautiful lesson of that through paradox, is learning how to self resource for myself when in my own emotional needs, and even just like in my own personal needs, especially when we're not getting external validation. It's like, how can I validate myself? How
Mhm.
can I reassure myself? How can I make myself feel like I belong and I deserve to exist in the world as I am?
Yeah.
And that really does, for me, that's come through loss. That's come
Yeah.
through periods of grief and not having these people externally to be able to go to. And then in those moments, it can be super confronting, but it's also so incredibly empowering, is to
Yeah.
recognize how I can hold myself. And, Megan, you can hold yourself, but then also we can have each other. And
Each other.
it's beautiful when we can come at connection also from a more empowered place rather than help, like
Yeah.
save me, do this for me. Right. It's a very different dynamic. And I think that that's ultimately what we are creating in the collective, is to be able to create a space to empower women to really step into their own power, their own autonomy, their own resources and tools. And
Their
from
own
that to be
embodied
able
leadership.
embodied leadership, like how can we be
Mhm.
embodied leaders in our lives? And I think within that, there's a lot of liberation. There's a lot of beautiful liberation in that. So that's all
And
I
I
have
wanna
to add to
add,
that one.
yeah, to the grief you spoke to, because it's like also the grief of no one's coming to save me, and I can't save anyone. I
Mm.
can't do that. I can't save anyone.
Nope. You
I
can take a
I
horse to
could
water.
try,
Can't make it
but you
drink.
can't make it drink. And
Mm-mm.
it's the coming back to, "Oh, I'm the one that I've been waiting for all this time? Little old me? That's crazy." Like, the amount of in this breaking the illusion of the fantasy, there's been a lot of repair with my inner child. Like, my inner child and me, we've got real intimate this year in ways we have not been intimate before. And speaking to her, like, developing a practice ritual where I actually speak to her every single day has been the anchor on how I've survived this lesson without crumbling under the reality and heaviness of it all.
Mm.
Yeah, that's all I
Speaking
got
to the
for
inner
lesson 2.
child. Oh my God, that's a big one. That's one of the biggest ones, is reassuring this part of us that feels that we're not safe, that feels like we don't have belonging, that feels like we don't know how to exist in the world. And like sometimes we really don't know. Like our adult selves are going through life experiences and it's super initiating and confronting. And like sometimes we don't even know how to be human, how to be in it. And that's also where, our inner child, like this most innocent and like vulnerable parts of ourselves that needs that reassurance. And it's beautiful, like when we actually give ourselves a minute to be with that part and to speak to that part and to reassure and give love from a place of faith. Because the reality is that, we're not speaking empty words to ourselves, because then we're not even going to be able to receive it. And that's also what brings us into lesson number 3, is faith. which is, I mean, we titled this lesson "God Entered the Room," which I think is so funny because we, this year, when I tell you this year has stripped all external validation in every single way, career, friendships, um, personally, like just going through ego death after ego death, the amount of just also navigating through distortions, noticing distortion stories that are playing out, like all of these different things, they really do test your faith. They test your faith in your own capacity to make it through that challenge and that moment and that initiation, because the whole body's in survival state. Let's be real about that. And also faith that externally, even though it might look really chaotic, that it will, everything is happening for you, is happening for your highest good, for the lessons that you need to learn to continue to embody that iteration of yourself that can hold this dream that's in your heart that you are co-creating into the world. Recognizing that we are co-creators and that we are not just imposing our will onto the world because we want it to be that way, that there are higher forces that are acting outside of our control that we do have to humbly hold reverence for because we are not able to control everything. There's a few layers in this one, but I will say at the beginning of this year, we started with Mary Magdalene. She was the first goddess that we journeyed with in January. And boy, did that bring so much of the mm, prejudice towards religion and even just saying the word God. God was something that when I was speaking to Megan, she would literally get viscerally uncomfortable. Viscerally,
Shut
like
down,
the rest of the
collapse.
sentence didn't even land. Like there's no,
Mm,
it's just, I can't even listen.
no. I'm not gonna lie, creating that circle was hell. I did not
It was
enjoy
hard.
creating the Mary Magdalene circle. That was the first time in creating anything for Venusian Womb where I was hitting so much resistance, I couldn't even hear Milena. Like the defensive walls that came up, like to block her out when she would say the word God was insanity. We sat on my couch back there for like 4 hours trying to figure out how to create this damn circle and use language that I was a little comfortable
Every
with.
time I said God, it had to be like God, universe, source, higher power.
Whatever.
Like literally, we had to maybe, if I ever needed to use this one word, it had to be like expressed in 4 different iterations of the same
For
meaning,
it to
just different
land in my
words. Yeah.
all that to say, I started off the year as a not God girly, and I've ended the year as a God girly. I read the Bible now.
Same. And there's a lot of beautiful lessons within that that are, and I feel like I do want to add this part is that a big part of bringing God into both of our lives has not just been, it's been like a deepening of faith
Mhm.
and also a virtue. Is how are we showing up every single day, and what are these virtues, like these things that form our character? How are we showing up? How are we relating to ourselves? How are we relating to others? How are we coming into right relationship with all of creation, including right coming into right relationship with God,
Self.
with the higher power, with the divine within ourselves? And it's been really beautiful to be able to really refine this, like how are we showing up and holding self responsibility, because God sees everything, and it's not coming from this place of condemnation, because that's been my experience being taught religion very young.
Mhm.
Is it created a lot of shame, it created a
Mhm.
lot of layers of shame and condemnation
And
and
humiliation.
feeling like I was innately wrong for just existing and not knowing better, because we're not born into this pristine, virtuous world. There's a lot of distortion. There's a lot of ego in here, in this world as well. And that's the thing, is we live in a world of duality. And so it's being able to holding on to this light within ourselves, holding on to this faith of knowing that we are divinely protected and that everything is happening for us, even in the most challenging times, that there is opportunity and potential to alchemize it into something that will grow you and bring you somewhere beautiful on the other side of it.
And if there's something that's really important that I've learned in my relationship with God, um, is the inviting God in.
Mm.
God's not
Mm.
coming in unless you consent to God being there, which was such a drastic, clear, evident situation for my resistance that I had at the beginning of the year to inviting God into my space. And it would definitely like this whole I don't even consider myself reading the Bible. That's a lie. I consider it myself wrestling with the Bible.
Mm.
I don't I don't agree with everything in there at all. Um
It really needs to be
I
interpreted.
I am making my own meaning as I'm going, and I know that I am at my altar every morning praying to God in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like for me, which might be dancing, it might be singing, it might be just talking to my inner child. But I know that inviting God in is not a way to fix your life. And I think a lot of ways I've seen like God's gonna
Mm.
fix you. God's gonna put you on the right path, which that's not been my experience at all. God has sat with me and given me the courage to meet myself in ways I haven't met myself before, to not abandon myself, to look at the mess together and to feel held in it, felt held in my humanity within it. And that's what God has really brought to me this year in that faith, in that support, that very like felt divine support that nothing else has ever really given me before. Because then it also doesn't make me feel like I have to figure it out all by my fucking self.
Mm-mm.
I am tired of figuring things out by myself. I love let go and let God. That
Let
was
go
our
and let
mantra at the
God.
beginning of the year or mid of the year. It stands. It stands.
It still stands. And like you said, I do just want to ground this point of inviting God, inviting God into our lives and developing an intimate relationship with God and knowing that God is expressed in everything. And oh, shoot, I don't want to add too much time to this episode, but there's a story. There's a story that I has really stuck to me. And it is there was a young boy. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. This is definitely not exactly, but there's a young boy and he prays to God and he's asking God, please, God, come visit me. I want to feel your presence. Like I will invite you over to my house and we'll have dinner together and we'll feast. And so he's inviting God and he's speaking to God and he's saying, God, give me a sign, show me, come into my life. And he creates this beautiful feast for him and for God at his home. And there's like three different people that come and knock on this man's door. One of them is an elderly lady. She comes and she knocks and she's just like, I think she tells him that she is wandering by and, asks to come in. And he's like, no, no, you can't come in. I can't take guests because I'm waiting for someone. And so the elderly lady leaves. There's two other children. I think there's another children. They come by. They're also, again, they're trying to like come into this man's space. And he's like, no, 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 no. I'm waiting for someone. I'm waiting for someone. I have more important matters to attend to. You guys have to leave. You can't stay. And then again, there's like another older man. And again, these are all people that, you know, they, they might look frail or they might look very young and they don't have this like maturity that we would expect from a godlike figure. They're no gurus. So third person comes by and again he sends that person off and he's like, I can't tend to you, I'm waiting for someone. And then it's the end of the night and he's praying to God and he's frustrated because he's saying, God, you never came and I prepared this massive feast for all of us. And God told him, I did come. I came in the form of an elderly woman and I came in the form of these children. So it was so interesting because in that, God's presence was there. And this man missed it. He missed it because he thought that God was going to come in a particular form or was going to look a particular way. And the beautiful meaning that I've derived from this story, which is so simple, but it's powerful in the sense that God is can be expressed in so many different forms, and God is also present in everyone and everything and every being that we interact with. There is divine essence in them, and I think that being able to recognize the divinity of all things And in all things, it really allows you to hold reverence and to hold love for all beings and all life. And that's been really a beautiful perspective shift of being able to recognize the divine in all, and even the ones that have hurt us, the ones that have done us wrong, though there is also divine essence in them as well. And everyone is kind of on their own path. And I find that when we are able to bring God into our lives and into our hearts, like to really
Mhm.
see God in our own hearts, and to be able to see that love in the world expressed around us. It's so beautiful, and there's a level of reverence that we can really hold for everyone and everything, and know that everything is sacred. And that's been really helpful, I think, for myself. Is it kind of helps dissolve these stories of hurt and the stories of the villain and the hero, and recognizing that, we are all we do all have divine essence within us, and it does kind of help bring us all into this level of sameness. There is no
Mhm.
moral high ground or hierarchy, despite the fact that our ego might feel more righteous. Is we are all the same. In many ways, we are in the fabric of our essence, we are all the same. And we're just kind of
Mhm.
learning different lessons in different moments. So, yeah, that's
That was lesson 3.
but 3.
Lesson 4, mistakes as data. We have already done a whole episode
We
on
did.
this.
Reframing
Reframing
failure.
failure. So, not that I'm gonna say we're gonna skip it, but we're gonna skip it. Go listen to reframing failure because we went in depth there of what that lesson taught us, and that was a big lesson. But we won't reiterate. So,
Yeah.
backtrack. Lesson 5, reframing reality, which also we have an episode on this one, but we'll talk to it a little bit because this has been like golden nuggets for me along this year of having honestly Steph has been a
Steph.
big part of this lesson.
We
Thank
also
you,
have
Steph.
a podcast episode with Steph from Souls Haven. The ways that she creates inner liberation within herself and in all of the people that she is in connection to is beautiful. It is the
Mhm.
ways that she asks the right questions to be able to recognize what is the root belief behind the story that you've created in your mind. And once we can get to that root belief, can we start to maybe question it?
Yep.
Question the foundation that's holding this entire mental story of how we are perceiving reality. And when you get to that place of questioning from this root, there's always some type of belief that's leading the story. And then you start questioning that belief, the whole story just dissolves. It's crazy.
Like there's nothing for it to stand on. There is no story anymore. It like evaporates and you're just like, what happened? How'd you do that? How'd you literally change my life? That story I've been running with, I've been speaking for years. Poof, gone. There's nothing to hold on to anymore. And it's so powerful because then it gives you more choice. Then you have more choice in the matter and you can't pretend you don't. Like that like I don't know what you call it, like the curtains. The curtains are like open. And then you really see what's going on behind the curtains and you're like, "Oh, hi. I had a part to play in that." That's crazy. And then you can't but fix your behavior if you're saying that's what you really want and then you don't want to repeat the patterns. You have no choice but to address the ways that you have been getting in your own way and move. But reframing reality has been insane. And it also is just it's done in such a non-shaming way where we get very curious and like allow the inner child to be part of the conversation, allow all parts of you to be part of the conversation and not shame or exile any of those parts, which makes it digestible, makes it possible to actually meet yourself in that shadowy territory, in the core beliefs that have been holding the foundation of who you say you are.
So, one of the big mantras for this lesson for me has been yes and.
Yes. And
Is recognizing the stories again, because reframing reality, we're perceiving reality through these stories that we're creating in our mind about how we're relating to the world around us and what we believe
Mhm.
about the world around us. And the more that we're able to become curious of what these stories are, the more that we're even open to seeing them. And it's very interesting how there can be multiple stories. There can be multiple stories that are present that we believe as to be real and truthful. And in those stories, when we're able to observe them without becoming attached to them, we notice how there is sometimes opposing meanings within these stories, and recognizing that, for example, let's say I'm going through a really difficult, challenging moment in my life. Maybe there is loss of friendship because of something that was done. There can be multiple stories that play out within this one situation. One of those stories being everyone leaves, this belief that people won't stay, this belief that people are going to abandon you for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And then there could also be the story of I am not I am not perfect. There is also the story of I am doing my best. And all of these stories could reflect parts of ourselves that, or parts of our beliefs around the situation unfolding, and recognizing that we don't have to attach to any individual story. All of these stories can be present and can be truthful to what we're experiencing internally. And recognizing that, yeah, it's important first and foremost before we reframe and before we start to shift how we're perceiving the situation. First, just being able to recognize that there's multiple stories playing out, having curiosity towards them, and then from there getting to the root of what it is that this story is reflecting in me that I believe to be real. And then questioning, is this really real? Like, is
Mhm.
this really something that is real or that I even want to hold on to? And so being able to come at it from that openness and that curiosity and recognize, yes, and it's like, yes, this exists, and this exists, and this exists, and they all exist in the same moment. And they can all
Yeah.
be reflections of the truth without any one of them having to be the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
And then
That
from there,
nuance.
then we decide exactly. Then we can
Mhm.
decide what is the truth that we are choosing to lead us. It doesn't mean the other ones aren't going to come into the mind, because they will, but we've already acknowledged those. And so we can now, when they come in full force, we can now let them go and focus on
Mhm.
the belief and the reframe that we are choosing to move forward with.
Mhm. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a powerful lesson. I'm sure that one's still not integrated in my body, but that was still a big lesson from this year, and I can't wait for 2026 to see how that lesson evolves.
I agree. That one's one that requires a lot of practice. It
Mhm.
requires a lot of practice to be able to really refine it.
Mhm. Lesson 7, sisterhood wounds and real sistering. This is also one that we just talked about in our recent episode with Jen. But this one's deep. This one feels edgy to even speak to. And vulnerable, because we're here saying we're creating a sisterhood collective, and all we host womb circles, and we are all for the sisters. Like, really, truthfully, we really are. But we are also human, and recognizing our own messiness and our own being a real sister means you're gonna make a mess and then take radical honesty for the mess that you made. And that doesn't mean that sisterhood is magically gonna come back together. It's just the reality of what it is to be in sisterhood, what it is to just be in human connection with other people too. And there's a lot of pain when it comes to thinking you're exiled from the sisterhood because you haven't been a good sister before. And might I add that we do live in a society that pins women against each other from the day we're born. Competition is
Mhm.
literally, like, ingrained there, like competing for attention, competing for validation from men, the beauty standards, everything is there to put us against each other. So it is almost natural that there is sisterhood wounds and competition between us, and a lot of unspoken expectations that weave through the fabric of sisterhood or sister relationships. So that has been a big lesson in learning how to show up as a sister, still as a messy sister, but still feel invited in and allowed to be a part of belonging to the sisterhood. Um, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to a big part of this lesson, and recognizing that I think it's just kind of been this illusion. It's breaking this illusion of what it means to be a good sister,
Mhm.
because the good sister was very much tied into the good girl for me. Of me being a good sister means that I am not disappointing any of the other women in my life, whether they're new connections, whether they're connections that have, stood more of the test of time, is not feeling that I am disappointing a sister, or that I am not meeting their expectations, or, just not standing true to how they may perceive me, or how the kind of sister that I've shown myself to be. And I think that it's been a very beautiful and humbling lesson of our own humanity, and recognizing that in human connection, we are also learning. We're learning how to be in connection. We are not, we do not know how to be in this righteousness and virtuous high ground. Not that there ever should be, because that's also not a standard to obtain. It's a process. It's a process of just coming closer and closer to alignment with our own values, and what it is that we are, how we're choosing to show up in the world, and our character, and recognizing that in these lessons that we're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable that we will. It's inevitable that we may, when we're acting in our truth, that may go against what someone else may expect of us, or what they'd want from us. And it's been very interesting, I think, this metaphor that Megan and I have created, of just recognizing that as humans we are messy. And sometimes when we are leading from these places of wounding, or from these places of wanting to feel chosen, or, any of these things within us, these parts of us that have not been integrated, that are running the show a little bit, um, when these parts are leading, they can create a mess. They can create a bit of a mess, and they feel internally,
A
as you're in
hurtful
it,
mess.
they
Like,
feel messy.
and it could be a hurtful mess, a very hurtful mess. Yes.
And recognizing that that's also part of being human, and that's part of maturing. That's part of learning how to be in connection, and also exploring yourself, recognizing that, like, these people come into our lives to show us who we are. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of beauty in that, and also recognizing that it's super confronting sometimes as well. And I think it's not about, I always thought that being a true sister was not making a mess, not being messy at all, ever. And if I was messy, then I am absolutely containing it to the sterility of my inner world. And it's not at all contaminating any of the world outside of me or anyone else. And that's been a huge illusion of, that's actually not realistic. That's not realistic, number one. And number two, this goodness, this what it is to be a sister, is not about not being messy, because that's
Mm-mm.
part of being human and really truly owning this human experience. But rather, it's recognizing when a mess has been made, and when other people have had that mess spilled on them, and that may have caused hurt or harm, and being able to hold that self responsibility of recognizing, this is my mess and I got messy, and these are the people that were involved in this mess. And not coming at it from this place of shame, because again,
Mm-mm.
one, that's not really helpful. And two, it's also not honoring. It's not honoring your process, and honoring these lessons, and honoring the fact that we also do learn through mistakes, and we don't know. We don't know until we know, right? So honoring the mess and then cleaning up your mess, that's
Mhm.
holding the self accountability. And that's also integrating truly, what are the things that you needed to learn about yourself to prevent this from happening again in the future, and to prevent this mess, the same messiness and the same part of ourselves from creating a mess in the world, and and involving other people again. So it's not about not being messy. It's not about not creating a mess, because that's also just part of being human. It's about how we are responding to the mess. How are we cleaning up the mess after it's already been made, and learning from it.
And also the shame and the guilting, like yourself. It's like the self-punishing. It's self-centered. You're not gonna be able to take accountability for anything when you're still in the me, 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 me. And it doesn't feel like it's me, 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 because it's like, "Oh my god, I did something so bad and, like, I hurt them." But it is, it's you're still making it all about you. And again, that's another protective mechanism, but it's so interesting to see that shift of like accountability. You don't have to punish yourself to be accountable. And especially if someone is still in that space of punishing you, there is no repair that's going to be happen and that's happening because it's just not gonna happen, and if someone keeps blaming you and shaming you, you don't have to keep blaming and shaming yourself. You're gonna stay stuck in that rut, in that "I'm a horrible, shameful, bad human being," which doesn't serve you because it's self-centering, and yeah, no, that was another lesson within this that's kind of in the it's all connected in some way, but yeah.
And I think this has been such a beautiful lesson to have experienced and also to continue to integrate from this year is recognizing that, we can we can still be sisters and still hold other women and uplift other women and empower other women, even if we have not been good sisters in the past. And recognizing that sisterhood is always going to be here. It's always going to be
Mhm,
open for you when you are able to open up to it again. And
mhm,
it's not something that, you're kicked out, you're exiled, you're no longer welcome. Everyone, this is where also this beautiful archetype of divine mother, which has been so helpful, I think, in healing these sisterhood wounds, is recognizing that in this archetype, in this energy of divine mother, all is welcome. There is unconditional love, even the parts of you that feel the messiest and the most pain filled, these parts are even welcome. They're allowed to be here and they're given permission to exist. And I think that again, it's just a matter of how are we choosing to grow from the experiences that we've had and the messes that we've made, and how are we choosing to move forward. And when
mhm,
we are choosing to move forward from a place of accountability and love without the condemnation, without the shame, like truly just how can we just be in this frequency of love and learn and move forward? There's a
mhm,
lot of trust that's built in that process. That is a person that is able to, those are friendships that are able to stand the test of time, is when we're able to have that reflection, that accountability, and then move forward and repair. If that repair is possible, because like Megan said, sometimes it's not. And that's okay. And that's also okay. And recognizing that we don't have to control the people that are in our lives to
mm,
feel that we belong, and we innately belong just for being human. And if you don't have a space where you feel that you belong, then you are welcome always in our sisterhood and in the community that we're growing here, because, this isn't a community for performance. This isn't a community for you to come and be like, these are all the amazing things that I did as a sister, and this is why I'm such a good sister, and like, look at
It's like,
me.
"These are all the ways I was a bad sister. Am I still worthy?"
And like that's the thing is
Yeah.
in the space that, we're creating and in the sisterhood that Megan and I have held, like we've seen each other in our mess. We've seen the messy, and also we've been able to just be really raw and really human and love each other in witnessing our each other's humanity, and that has been the most healing, let alone
Mhm,
celebrating for all the beautiful wins and the things that we've done. Like, what's been most healing is being held in the pits and the of our mess and of our shadow, and to
mhm.
support one another while we've been in it. And I think that that is ultimately this realness and this rawness, that is the community that we're creating. Is you could bring your light, bring your medicine, bring your gifts, but you could also bring the mess and the lessons and the mistakes, and that's also welcome.
The thoughts that keep you up at 3 in the morning.
Yep, 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 yep.
So, to conclude, to wrap our year up in a nutshell, this year has stripped
Mm,
us bare from fantasy. It has slowed down that feeling of urgency to fix things right away, and it has demanded embodiment from us over performance. So we want to offer all of you to reflect on what we've shared through the lessons. What were your lessons that you learned? We would, again, like Milena said at the beginning, we would love to hear from you. What lessons did you learn and see where their parallels are? But this year has been a permission to be unfinished. It's permission to slow down, to be in the body, and to trust in something greater than yourself, greater than anything that is in the moment. And we will see you next week, next week with the last episode of the season. We're feeling all the types of ways, but we can't wait to record it for you, to share it with y'all, and to have you listen. So see you next Friday.
Thank you for joining us inside the Venusian womb. If this episode spoke to something within you, we'd be so grateful if you left us a review or rating. It truly helps our podcast grow and reach more beautiful souls who are on this journey of becoming.
You can also share this episode with someone who may resonate with this message. Sometimes the right words arrive exactly when needed the most. Remember, growth takes time, and everything you're becoming is unfolding exactly as it's meant to.
May this Venusian code activate the Venusian energy within you. Until next time, take a breath, trust the timing, and keep tending to the dream within.
With love, Milena and Megan.